let's tiptoe through the tulips. Oh, you thought the red door was the last one. Let's tiptoe through the tulips to the further and explore it further. Tiptoe through the tulips. Lynn Shay is back to play Elise. Tiptoe through the tulips. This time Gemma can bring them back to our world through the tulips. Oh yes, we've got 6 of these fucking films. Tiptoe through the tulips, but they make tons of cash, so here we are with To the Tulips through the garden, and we see that we are out of the further, but it looks like just the other films. Insidious, Out of the Further, written and directed by Jacob Chase, who did come play, and we've got returning characters. Oh wait, just Lynn Shay as Elise, who at this point will play Elise until she goes into the actual further, and Gemma, played by Amelia Eve, she has the gift that was passed down hereditarily, and she has the gift to see the further that will see her battle people like the dead, and we have Lipstick, Face Demon, and other returning characters. Okay, I can't keep singing like that. No, I can't. I'm sorry. I can't keep singing like that. Ow. Ow. If Tiny Tim was still alive, he would slap me in the goddamn face. I assume he's dead. I actually don't know. Now I feel bad, because if he's not in the further, he's going to probably get upset. So anyway, yes, Insidious, Out of the Further, a.k.a. Insidious 6. Yeah, so Jacob Chase, who did come play. There was a film that was fine. I don't necessarily remember a ton of things about it. I don't remember hating it. But nevertheless, after that, and after Insidious, The Red Door closed the chapter on the Lambert family, and Blumhouse and the studio said, we are going to put the Insidious franchise on ice. No, they fucking didn't. 3 years later, we get this, Insidious, Out of the Further. And for those that were locked into the Insidious franchise, you all were probably there for opening day. Fun fact, this was the one of 3 movies, rather, that I saw Thursday as of this recording. Insidious, Out of the Further. Mutiny with Jason Statham. He wore a hat on a boat. So Malibu Statham is what they should have called it. And Spa Weekend, if it hadn't been for Isla Fisher, or Isla Fisher, however you say it, I really would have hated that movie. So, that being said, wrecked my goddamn throat there. Jacob is not the only person that did any story stuff for this. The story, if you want to call it that, was done by David Leslie Johnson Goldrick, which sounds like a name way too snooty to be involved in a film like this, but wait, oh wait, oh wait, I will tell you what he ended up doing. He did Orphan, that actually was pretty good. He did the 2011 Red Riding Hood, that was not so good. He did Wrath of the Titans. This is not looking necessarily great. He did The Conjuring 2. He also, unfortunately, did The Conjuring 3 and 4. He did Aquaman. He did Aquaman, The Lost Kingdom. And he did Orphan First Kill. So if you want to talk about a filmography that just swings from pendulum to pendulum to pendulum, there you go. So anyway, we have a woman named Gemma, played by Amelia Eve, who's doing her best Naomi Watts in The Ring impression, who is basically overcoming the grief of losing her mother at an early age. She inherited the house that her mother had, or dealt with stuff that her mother, went through at an early age, and now has inherited the house that her mother lived in. And, well, yeah, she has a young daughter named Maya, who is played by Island Austin, who is in I Can Only Imagine 2. And from there, we just basically get Gemma experiencing various weird things going on in this particular house. She has a cop husband, or boyfriend, that wants to be her husband, and she ends up basically discovering that she has weird translucent dreams where she can go into a weird demonic world called The Further. If you couldn't figure out where this film was going with the title Out of the Further, and you are not familiar with the Insidious movies, this probably isn't the best introduction for you, because we can go all the way back to 2010. I did retro reviews of all those, if you want to call them retro reviews. Actually, really, when I did them, the first 2 were about the only retro ones. And they made a lot of money, especially on small budgets, especially the first two Insidious movies. I think cost a combined maybe $5 million at the most with marketing and everything. And then we had Insidious Chapter 3, we had Insidious The Last Key, and then we had Insidious The Red Door. They make a lot of money. They have their fans, they have their detractors, and they do also, have the benchmark of being pretty much the only PG-13 horror franchise that is actually wildly successful. We do have a few other returning characters in this. We do have Joseph Bishara as a lipstick demon. I don't really think that's necessarily a spoiler. Fun fact, he also was the Annabelle demon in Annabelle Creation. He also was a composer for this and others. So good on him for continuing to find work. And we have a few other characters I'll talk about in the spoiler section. But in regards to how this is as an Insidious movie, I never cared for the Insidious movies. I'm just going to put that right out there 6 minutes into the review. I apologize for that. But yeah, if you have followed my channel for a while, you know that I never really cared for the Insidious movies. I recognize that they have their fan base. I love me some Rose Byrne from the first two movies. My God, what a woman. I like Patrick Wilson. He's a pretty damn good actor. But in all honesty, I never really cared for them because I never really found them scary. I think the over-reliance on the jump scare noises is lazy. I think the lore is kind of stupid. And it is funny that Lin Shaye's character, Elise, is so revered and the only character to appear in every single one of these movies. And that's not a spoiler if you've even seen the marketing for this film a little bit, or even know about the Insidious movies. You would have to assume Elise would be in this. And she died at the end of the first one and has somehow continued to appear in every single one of these. Granted, the chapters 3 and also The Last Key were origin stories for her. But nevertheless, I did not care for this, and I will tell you why I did not care for this. There are people that love this, and that's great. I actually had a few people message me, one on here, and I've had a few people talk to me on social media that liked it, wanted to know why I didn't like it, and wanted a decent long-form video. For me personally, I found a lot of this lazy, and I don't mind them taking it in a different direction. I mean, hell, Final Destination Bloodlines, while being familiar enough, also had some great comedy, and even if the characters weren't necessarily ones you cared about, it understood how to be familiar but also reinvent the goddamn franchise and possibly take it in a new direction. Insidious Out of the Further, despite the fact that we go into the Further and come out of the Further, it feels like the Further's already explored, like we already have residents there and are paying rent. High rent, increasing rent that will continue to swallow us whole until capitalism consumes us. That being said, Insidious Out of the Further doesn't do anything new, and any of the stuff that it tries to present is, oh, shocking. It's not really. You can figure out exactly where this film is going, and predictability doesn't always breed contempt, except in this case. I pretty much hated Insidious Out of the Further, aka Insidious 6, and that's really all I have to say about it. I mean, if you're not a fan of dentistry work, you're not going to care for a few scenes in this. And none of it is creepy. None of it is scary. And also it has that feeling of, I'm going to take my ball and go home, have my cake and eat it too. And the conclusion is especially dumb. And the villains are not particularly scary. And bless Lin Shaye, she got a paycheck. But Amelia Eve, she is no Naomi Watts. It's in theaters right now, 3, 2, 1, and spoilers. So, why did I not care for this one? One, I thought the plot was very weak. And I didn't necessarily think that it was particularly interesting. I didn't find Gemma to be a particularly interesting character, but we start with a young Gemma. I do have to say, by the way, that the actors do what they can. I don't think that the acting is terrible. I think it's about standard for an Insidious movie. I still find it mind-blowing that Barbara Hershey, by the way, was in her 60s in the first and second one and looked as great as she did. I mean, good genetics right there. She's not in this, unfortunately. Even if besides Lin Shaye, she probably could act in circles around everybody else. Just right after I said the acting wasn't bad, it's just everybody is dealing with the material that they can. And let's be honest, David's story is very, very, I don't know. It's just not particularly interesting. It does have that manifestation of grief where you see it at an early age. You deal with, parents that are clearly losing it, or just a bad home life, and it can carry with you. And the thing is that's great. It's just been done different and better in other movies. Hokum did that without ever showing the parents, except in pictures. And Hokum probably had a smaller budget than this film. We start in the beginning, obviously, which is where movies usually start, unless you're fucking Memento. Or unless you want to do something where you start right near the conclusion, like in Mutiny, and then go back and tell the story. Mutiny sucked, by the way. Mutiny was really bad. So let's get back to this. We essentially have Gemma having to take care of herself because her mother is losing it. For a variety of reasons, her mother is losing it. And then she sees her mother basically bash her head against the wall in the shower and everything, while talking to herself and acting really weird. By the way, it actually turns out that the mother did that for a specific, not selfish reason. But Gemma is haunted by this, and then Gemma is a dentist. She has a cop boyfriend that I mistakenly called the husband, played by Brendan Pereira, who I recognize. I can't necessarily name from what. And also, we do have Laura Gordon, who is in Late Night with the Devil, a terrific Shudder original, by the way. And I did also recently watch something called Buffet Infinity that is on Shudder. It's not a Shudder original. It is just a bunch of weird commercials that tell a story about an all-consuming restaurant. It's pretty goddamn good, if not weird, SCTV style. But that being said, Gemma is trying to figure out what is the deal with this and why she keeps having these weird dreams, keeps seeing these weird monsters, and there's something strange going on. It all ties back to something from her past, obviously. If you can't figure that out, her mother also had this gift. That is revealed later on, but I'm just going to reveal this right now. And there is also a weird entity that seemingly is trying to get her that is named Cyrus Lamb. That is a really stupid name, by the way. A really, really stupid name. Sam Spurl, who is another actor you may recognize. And he basically is a former cult leader that wants to band the dead together to come back into the real world to hassle Rob Thomas, I assume, but also take it over. Even though when, what was it? I don't remember the name of the particular ghost that the woman in black, I think, that took over Patrick Wilson's character, or whatever character it was that took over that. Again, I've seen these movies, but it has been a bit. The one that possessed him at the end of the first one and into the second one. Here's the thing. So, they just need somebody to bring them into the real world, and then they can just dominate the real world. They need a conduit to bring them in. But they don't need a body to possess them, even though they needed a body to possess, to come into the real... That made no sense, but whatever. It's fine. That's fine. Lynn Shay deserves better. I'm just going to say that. Way too good for this material. I'm not saying she's an Oscar worthy actress in every single role, but I think she's a lot better than this. And essentially, Cyrus has this idea of wanting to use the dead to do his bidding and take over. Okay, cool. Gemma's gift. It basically starts to ruin her life and everything. Her boyfriend is shockingly understanding. Also, the tone of this whole thing with the conversations is all over the place. Hey, maybe you should get therapy. Maybe you shouldn't live in the house that your mother died in. That clearly has some weird stuff going on. Yes, manifestation of grief and stuff like that. But I'm not going to sell the house. I'm going to do something else to the house. More on that in a minute. But... there is also, a way where Cyrus is able to pull this off, because clearly if you have a conduit, a traveler, like the son from the first one, and then Patrick Wilson's character from the second one, and you have that kind of stuff where people can access the further, you can't really go much further into this whole area, and also it suffers from the same thing that Insidious, or all the Insidious movies did. It's so goddamn dark you can't see what's going on. I don't need spotlights, and I don't need freaking beacons showing me all this. It's obviously a set, but you can at least try. Also, no Tiny Tim song in this. That's why I just had to do it for the intro and more of the review. But again, I want to emphasize terrible jump scares, just very, very lazy. To me, they're lazy jump scares. The dentistry work scenes aren't particularly all that interesting. There are 3 weird people, one old guy, one old woman, and seemingly an old midget or daughter, I don't know, that actually are used as soldiers of the living to help Cyrus do his bidding. They get on like weird, not nitrous, but they get on like oxygen tanks, like, some weird drug to put their spirit in the world or in the further to do the bidding of Cyrus. And that's how they're able to do that. And they want to get Gemma to basically bring them all there. So, okay, that's pretty simplified. The thing is it's rather stupid because despite the fact this film is maybe an hour and 40-something minutes long, it drags. It really does drag. So, essentially, there's one scene in this. I'm not going to go through everything, bit by bit. There is one scene with like a couch cushion fort that I suppose would have played better if I hadn't seen it in the trailer a bunch of times, because I see a lot of movies, so I've seen a lot of trailers. But also, the fact is it wasn't particularly scary. She's crawling around. She's using a flashlight. There's a head peeking out, basically peeking out like this, like it's just, peeking out like that. And she manages to get out, but then also, like, these 3 people are trying to get her and drag her into the further, and, further and further into the further. And also this stuff with Cyrus, it turns out that he, through these people can get messages to her, but there's only so much he can do. And there's this one point where there's this TV that plays these tapes and stuff like that, and it's Cyrus's cult leader and this kind of stuff, and then he doesn't want her to find out too much, so he takes the TV into the further. He somehow is able to do that. The TV's in the further now. And that plays into something a little bit later. And meanwhile, the daughter wants a dog, but they can't have a dog, obviously, because, well, we can't have the dog get hurt. By the way, the dog's fine. They do have a dog in this. Neighbor has a dog. The neighbor is going to take care of the daughter for a little bit because the dad is completely out of the scene. Maybe he was taken into the further. Maybe he went further into debt or went further into obscurity to avoid paying child support like some men do. But Maya, meanwhile, ends up targeted when Gemma basically can't control her gift. And Elise has tried to Elise got her out at one point when she got sucked into the further when she was at a dentist appointment or doing a dental cleaning, and did one for the old guy where she's trying to inspect him and you half expect her hand to get bitten down on, but no, it didn't. But there's these weird exams where it's like a Pac-Man tooth thing, and it's just coming in like this, nang, 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 nang. But it, that isn't nearly as scary as I make it. If I make it sound scary at all, by the way, I'm doing a bad job of it. But essentially, we see Gemma dragged into the further, and things aren't going well. Also, the idea is the more she goes into the further, the more Cyrus could take a hold on her, and also she has her daughter, who she just wants to save. That's why she's at the neighbors, and Gemma hatches this plan, along with Claire, played by the very, very attractive Maisie Richardson Sellers. My word, I've seen her in a few things, but holy shit, she's used as a conduit for Elise, so Elise can speak through her. And yeah, there we go. We also get some tattoo work on cantaloupe skin. I assumed that. I didn't know if that was going to actually factor into something, but not necessarily. So Claire and Gemma are going to do this, but they can't do it on their own. So Nick's going to help. Nick's going to do a wellness check on the old people, while Gemma goes in there and she goes into the house, sneaks in there, and then the aforementioned TV incident happens. So the idea is they're going to find a way to basically get Cyrus to stay in the further. They're going to lock him in there for good. They're going to find the door, the red door, even though the red door was fucking painted shut, another one opened. Because when you paint one door shut, another one opens. And also, and Elise let this line slip, and I don't know if I heard it wrong, but she says, a couple weeks ago, I helped another family, the Lamberts, and they shut this door, and that was it. And I'm like, wait, it was 2 weeks? We're 2 weeks past the red door? Was this film made like a couple years ago and just released now? Why was it done so soon? Why wasn't whatever? It's okay. Cyrus, anyway, is trying to get out. And Cyrus ends up basically grabbing hold of Gemma, even though Nick is trying to find the 3 people that, are on the drugs that are trying to do the bane of him for whatever reason, because they buy into the cult atmosphere. Also, then Maya gets taken, and Maya has the gift too, because the gift is hereditary, because it turns out the mother actually bashed her head against the wall to stop this whole thing, but Maya has the gift, and now Maya is a susceptible child that is going to be used to flip constantly and bring ghosts back into the real world, bring the dead back into the real world. Now, this sounds interesting, but it's not. It's not interesting at all. We essentially see ghosts destroy the goddamn house. One eats a rat, even though they really can't show that. And also, it's so dark you can't see what the fuck's going on, nor do you fucking care. But Nick does use the smart thing of shocking them awake with a goddamn taser, which right there, if you shock somebody that's in a drugged state, like a drugged, almost coma-like state, one, you can wake them up. Two, they're probably going to shit their pants, so it's going to smell really bad. But then again, those people don't look particularly clean. So Cyrus is trying to figure out what the hell is going on and why this is the case. The old man is the hardest one to bring down because he gets Maya, but eventually he's shocked awake. And then Maya's bringing them back and everything and being tortured. Gemma has to figure out a way to get out of the further along with her daughter, but she runs into her mother and comes to grips with all the trauma and everything and stuff like that. We get the flashback of the mother bashing her head against the shower. Elise is trying to help her and basically says, you need to get your daughter, you need to get the hell out of here. You can bring stuff out of the further, but you can also bring stuff back or something to that effect. So anyway, yeah, they're in the house. Things are not going well. The dead are, breaking up this whole thing. We get the weird mother, I think, that had, I don't remember, the mother that was very torturous to her son that was the ghost that ended up possessing Patrick Wilson. And she's got this kind of stuff, and she's gonna, Gemma's gonna go and basically be subservient, or do Cyrus's bidding. And we basically get Elise possessing the old man because he's out of his coma state to take the kid out. And now mother and daughter are on opposite sides of the door. There's a whole thing of just let go. Let go of the trauma, let go of all that, yeah, whatever. I would have liked to have let go. I would have liked to have let go of something, possibly the rope, like David Carradine, so I did not have to endure this movie anymore. But we get the daughter doing that. The daughter gets dragged away to safety, and oh shit, the house, they're in the real world. They're going to do this, and they're going to cause a whole bunch of destruction. And then suddenly, it flips to dark. And basically, Gemma says, we're not in your world. Boom, okay, yeah, we just, wild card, bitches. We're back in the further. Everybody runs out, and the dead look around and say, we're still in the same fucking place we were. You lied to us, Cyrus. You lied to us. So then they run back, and they get Cyrus and start attacking him. She'd taken the whole house, by the way, of the further. It's just a plot of, it's just a foundation and shit like that. Her body's there. It's not quite like Poltergeist, because they did move the gravestones along with the bodies. They just also moved all the logic out of the way. And Cyrus gets ripped apart. She manages to get the door shut, seemingly. Makes peace with her mother. Her daughter and her are happy. I assume Nick is still going to be around unless he's traumatized, even though he's a cop. Oh, and also, by the way, one thing I forgot to mention about this. Gemma is not the only one that can see this. Anybody around her can see this. Nick can see these ghosts. Everybody can see these ghosts. So they just threw all logic out the window, like anybody could just, people without the abilities. So everybody, even if they have basic eyesight, can see these things now. So, granted, I'm looking for logic in a film franchise called Insidious, but nevertheless. So, that being said, that is it, except for a mid-credit scene where Cyrus is getting his teeth examined by a particular dentist whose character looks familiar. You'll forgive me, by the way, if I'm not invested in the Insidious lore, but that's really about it. Yeah, I did not care for Insidious 6, aka Insidious Out of the Further, at all. I thought it was very lazy. I thought it was very uninspired. I see why some people vibe with it, and I'm not saying you're wrong. Like, that's the thing. If you guys like this film, great. That's fan-fucking-tastic. I got no issue with that. But I didn't like this one at all. I thought this was the worst of the goddamn franchise by a mile. And if it does well, we'll see how well it does. And I can't imagine it costs too much money. So if it does well enough, we're going to get a 7th. I just don't know what the fuck else they can do. Can they continue this story? Can we go with another character? Can we do an origin story where we have like a very young Elise? Except we already did that, I think, in the last key. So there really isn't anything else they can do except churn out more stuff because that's what Blumhouse does. Yeah, I'm sorry, I ain't care for it. Longer video than I expected, but let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Ritlin. Until we see if we go in and out of the further, much like the goddamn, ex that I had, where people went in and out of her like a train running through a tunnel. This is weird. Happy trails to you.